We are coming now to an end of our 2 days or 2.5 days conference. We will see first the Glasgow, the invitation for our next conference, and I think we're looking forward to see that. And then Stephen and I will say some closing words.
Thank you. My chief executive, Henry Simmons, asked me a few days ago to do this. He said, Jim, I won't be around at the end of the conference, so I want you to sell Glasgow to the conference and make sure that you get them there. I said, what would you like me to say, Henry? And he said, I don't care, just get them there. So, first thing I should tell you is I have really enjoyed this conference. I think the opportunity to share and to learn from other people who work across Europe, from people who have dementia, from people who care for and live with dementia in their daily lives. This has been an excellent conference, and I thank Alzheimer Europe and the Malta Dementia Association for organising this. And I think now is the time to reflect on that and also think, how can we make Glasgow equally as good? So, the green one. Yeah. I'm not going to go through all of that. That is just a little montage of some of the developments in Scotland, and I think we can be rightly proud of what we have developed in terms of public policy in Scotland, the way we have worked and the approach to that. And we would love for as many of you as possible to come to Scotland and share with us some of that learning. And we haven't got everything right, and there are people in this room, I think, who may have some development, some answers and knowledge that you can share with us that can help us. So I think we can jointly work together and learn from our shared knowledge. What can I tell you about Glasgow? Well, the first thing I should tell you is that we are always entirely honest. It is always 25 degrees in Glasgow. It almost never rains. And when it does, it's 12-year-old single malt. I've just got a little montage of some photographs here. You might want to take note of the statue in the foreground there. That's the Duke of Wellington. We will be returning there shortly. And this is a gallery of modern art. Somebody laughed. They know what's coming, don't they? Glasgow has got some of the finest architecture in the UK. It's got some of the best examples of Victorian architecture, and it has a real mix of modern architecture too. This is a view over Glasgow University from the leafy West End, as it's known, across Glasgow, and you can see some of that older and new architecture. This is our city chambers. We're hoping that we might be able to arrange something in the city chambers. We haven't quite finalised that yet, but we're hoping that you may get an opportunity to visit what is a wonderful building. Notice the blue skies, no rain. This is a riverside museum. The Clyde is the river that runs through Glasgow. I think it could probably rightly be called the lifeblood of Glasgow. It brought trade, it brought the shipbuilding industry, and of course most of that is gone now. But the riverside has been transformed, and it's a completely different skyline. And this is the Riverside Museum. Glasgow has a vibrant culture of literature, of music. It is vibrant, it's dynamic, it's edgy. You really need to visit it. You have to come and see and hear some of this. There's a phenomenon, I don't quite understand it. It involves people going into places and giving money to other people for goods. I think it's called shopping. I don't get it. It's sometimes called retail therapy. I am assured that Glasgow has got some of the greatest retail therapy outlets. Some really high designer stores, I'm told. So someone should explain this to me sometime. This is an example of the change in skyline I told you, and the crane in the foreground there, I think, is testimony to that industrial background of Glasgow, and the new kind of rising skyline that's coming out of that. That's our Sydney Opera House there. We like to copy other people. And here is it from another view. This bridge is commonly called in Glasgow the Squinty Bridge. Squinty means it's not quite straight. And of course, not only do we have a couple of really important events next year. We have a little issue of independence, perhaps. We have an independence debate. By the time you come here, you might need a visa, depending on how... We'll let you know about the travel arrangements and how that goes. We also have the Commonwealth Games, and we have some of the world's greatest athletes come to Glasgow. The Duke of Wellington. A favourite pastime of Glaswegians is sticking traffic cones on his head. But it says something about the humour of Glasgow and the warmth of the people, and its little bit of irreverence towards authority. That statue is really high. I frequently get suspected of being the only person that could have done that. This is a Kelvin Grove Museum, so a wonderful place. And again, another example of some of the fine architecture. It's worth a visit. Some people say that, but that... Sorry? Yes, it's free. And some people say the architect killed himself because the building was built the wrong way round. That is actually the front. But that's a myth that has to be exploded yet. Another picture. Glasgow is Gaelic for Dear Green Place. And partly because it has more public parks than any other city, as far as I'm aware, in the UK. But it does have some lovely quiet spaces. It's a bustling city, it's dynamic, it's energetic, it's warm, it's friendly. It's got some problems too, but it's got some nice quiet and green spaces. But finally, I think what I would say, what really makes Glasgow, Glasgow, it's the people. People of Glasgow have experienced hardship in their lives. There are issues there, there's poverty, but there's a real sense of community, there's a warmth, and there's a humour. And I hope I've tried to express some of that. And I'm sure that some of my colleagues here within the Scottish Dementia Working Group and the National Dementia Carers Action Network would be testimony to that. Am I right? Yes. Thank you. So we have a slogan, People Make Glasgow. And it'll be made stronger by your visit, so please come and join us next year. Thank you.
So this brings us to the end of the 23rd Alzheimer Europe Conference, Living Well in a Dementia-Friendly Society. On behalf of the Malta Dementia Society, I would like to thank you all participating speakers and delegates for such a marvelous experience and exchange of information and good practices. It was a great pleasure that the conference was hosted here in Malta, and I hope that you've enjoyed your stay. Thank you again, and I look forward to meeting you, colleagues and friends, at the Glasgow conference. Thank you.
That also leaves me some words for me. Living well in a dementia-friendly society. More than 5,000 participants were gathered here to listen to us, to our conference, and we had 70 Maltese delegates. And I think for such a small country, it was really great that we do have them here. If we look at the development of the Alzheimer Europe conferences over the years, one very important thing is that we did have such a contribution of people with dementia. And what we experienced is that they had a big audience and they had a big feedback from all the participants. I visited their sessions, and I think they really showed us that Alzheimer Europe is on the right way, that we include them. And they tell us about their reflections of their way of life, their experiences with the disease. And they show us, and we see how important the network in between themselves is, but also they show us their vulnerability and their need for support from their friends, but also from all of us. When, for example, reading or speaking is at the moment no longer possible, or when overwhelming emotions arise. That reminds me of times when I, as a family carer, that is nearly 25 years ago, I was brave enough to speak in public about my mother and what her Alzheimer's disease was doing to her and us as family. So now the reality is what we have written in the statutes of Alzheimer associations around Europe and around the world. We are an association of people with dementia and their carers, and I'm really proud of this. But the conference also showed that dementia is really a society problem, not only for a few of us, but for all of us. Dementia in all stages and in all settings. In this conference, we had more younger people in the audience, and we had more younger people as speakers than we had before. And it's really great to see this development. And I think that's also due to the great program committee that we had, and thanks to the program committee that had chosen all the interesting talks that we could have listened to. Thanks to all speakers, to all session chairs, and also to the organization committee. And to the Malta Dementia Society, thank you very much, Stephen Abela, and I think that's, again, but that also leaves it to me to say thank you to the staff of Alzheimer Europe, and especially to Jean-Georges. I can't see him, but I'm pretty sure that he is here. But also to all the other staff of Alzheimer Europe, and especially to Gladys Giori. She was the one running around if something happens, and to whom we could address our questions to. But also, I would like to thank to the technical staff that made helping this conference such a success. Thanks to our sponsors, of course, and also thanks to His Excellency, Dr. George Abela, the President of Malta, who had taken over the patronage. And again, I think we should really clap. What you had seen here before is the type of social media that we are using now. We have a new friend who's twittering. That's our executive director, Jean-Georges, who likes it. And I think that we should really, if we are fond of these things, we should really make our own life and all the life that people listen to us, we can make it more vivid if we really would use it as well, and use Facebook, use internet, use our homepages, and use Twitter so that we all know what's going on, if we like to do it and if we like to listen it. That leaves really my closing words. I wish you all a safe trip home. And for some, as I've heard, some hours, some days in this beautiful Malta. See you again in Glasgow. Oh, that's overwhelming.